So we are here with the flagship product from the Marten range, which is the Supreme Extreme. Me and Leif would like to give you some more information about the system. The first thing I would like to ask you, Leif, is that I know that this is the third generation of a Supreme system for Marten, but could you take us back in time to the first Extreme system that you made and why you made it?
Sure. I think it was back in 2004, 2005, or 2004 we were thinking of doing a more extreme loudspeaker system. We had the Coltrane 1 that came 2002 or 2003. So I was always thinking about making an even bigger loudspeaker and more advanced. At that time, I think it was 2004, they could manufacture the first 2-inch diamond tweeter or mid-range.
Okay.
And of course, it's very exclusive, it costs a lot of money. So we couldn't fit it in a smaller Coltrane model. So then I started thinking of making a bigger one. So we when that came, a 2-inch diamond, I was thinking of doing what we should do, but at that time we were quite small as a company.
Okay.
So we couldn't really afford it to produce this big system that I had in mind. But one of our customers that we still, one of our distributors I would say, that still we have in Malaysia, he came up, he had some customers that were interested in a big loudspeaker system with diamonds and ceramic drivers and stuff.
Okay.
So he asked us, can't you do a big, really big system? And since I've already been thinking about it, so of course we can. But we explained to him that we can't really afford it, but I can put in some money.
We already have the customer.
Yes, I can. So he put in some deposits, so we could start with the development of this Supreme 1 system.
Okay.
It only called it Supreme at that time. So.
And already at that time it was also a 4-tower system?
Yes, because my idea was to have a main tower with the diamond tweeters and ceramic drivers for the mid-range and the mid-bass, and a separate bass tower, because to really separate the vibrations that the bass towers create, to separate from the mid-range and tweeter, that would be a big benefit, I thought.
To lower the distortion in the music by separating the bass towers. Okay, interesting. So then a couple of years went, or maybe even 10 years, until the second generation came of a super system from Marten.
2014, we had the premiere of the Supreme 2 system.
Okay.
But then it was not a really 4-piece system. It was a 2-piece system, 2-box system, but it was divided. Every channel was divided in 3 different boxes. So I still worked with the idea to make the mid-range and tweeter isolated from the bass.
Ah, okay.
So that's the same in Supreme 2 actually. So the metal box in the middle was kind of isolated from a bass. So we still did similar ideas about that.
So there are 2 pieces of the cabinets that are mounted on each other, and then the tweeter, the mid-range, and another driver is in a separate box that you include
was isolated.
That is isolated from the construction.
And also at that time, our supplier Acoustics came up with the idea of the cell drivers. And the cell drivers, the idea is to have the acoustic sound of the drivers to have bass, mid-range, and tweeter at the same level or plane, so you don't need to adjust the tweeter behind the mid-range and so forth. So you can have it at a flat baffle.
Okay.
So we discussed with Acoustics to make this 100% time coherent and time coincident. We needed to have a first order crossover.
So this was also the first speaker with a first order crossover filter from Marten.
I used first order crossover before, but not in that sense,
Okay.
to make it 100% time coincident,
Yeah.
time coherent.
Mm.
So that was the first loudspeaker we did with a 100% pure first order crossover.
Interesting. And now, 2025,
Yeah.
we had the opportunity to introduce another super system.
Yeah.
We are back to a 4-color system, but there is also quite a big change regarding the cabinets. The former one also came in a carbon fiber cabinet, but could you tell us some more about these cabinets?
Yes. First of all, we made it a 4-piece system, a 4-column system again. And that's mainly because I wanted to add more bass drivers.
You needed more space.
Yes. So I couldn't fit it in one tower.
Yeah.
Because then it will be too tall and you can't fit it in a normal living space.
Mm.
So I had to do it in the 4-piece system. And that's fine, because then you get 100% isolation between the mid-tweeter tower and the bass tower. So that's good. And then I wanted to develop, we always used carbon fiber laminate as a material from 2002 in the Coltrane series.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make it even more advanced and more resonance dead. So we developed these cabinets that's multi-layer carbon fiber with the distance material in between. So I think it's like 15 layers or 16 layers of carbon fiber instead of 2 layers with the distance material.
So it's still, even though it's carbon fiber, it's a pretty heavy cabinet due to all of the layers of carbon fiber.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, it's in each system, it's 4-piece system, it's 400 square meters of carbon fiber weave.
Okay.
So it's quite a lot.
It uses a lot of carbon fiber to make a cabinet like
You can't believe it, but it's multi-layer.
Yeah.
So if you count it, it's 400 square meters.
Yeah. And as we can see on these speakers as well, there is the solid walnut panels, both on the front, back, top and bottom. Why making this? Is this just a design, or does it also help with the sound of the speakers?
No, it's basically my idea as a designer is to everything at a loudspeaker should have a purpose.
Yeah.
Not for the looks, it should have a purpose that the sound quality benefits from.
Yeah.
So we build this carbon fiber cabinets like a monocoque. Then we add the front and back and the top and bottom.
Yeah.
That's solid wood, but also it's layered with 10 millimeters aluminum plates.
Yes.
With dampening glue in between. So it makes it even more rigid and more resonance dead. So I think these cabinets with this multi-layer carbon fiber and the solid wood and the metal plates, metal panels and the dampening glue makes these cabinets maybe the most resonance-free loudspeaker cabinets on the market today.
Yeah. So the design is all about giving the drivers in the speaker the best possible properties to work as good as possible.
Yes.
Okay, understand.
And that's also because we did this faceplate for the midrange and tweeters in a 10 millimeter thick carbon fiber as well, solid carbon fiber, to make the small resonances and vibrations to make them
disappear even more.
Yeah.
Because those drivers are very sensitive, of course. Yeah. So coming into the drivers, looking at the speaker, we can see that it's obviously quite a lot of different materials in these drivers. How come that we use these different materials in the different drivers?
The first idea as a designer, I had also that a few years ago, that it should be the same material in all drivers to make it more coherent and all this. But that's not 100% true. We should use different materials that's best in its area.
So for instance, like the different frequency range?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So for instance, for the mid-range and the tweeter area, diamond is far the best. You can't find any better material to make a dome or membrane than the diamond.
But it's a very hard material, so for that reason, do you need to treat them differently with the crossover filter?
Kind of, but not really. Since it's very hard and stiff, you put up a resonances for the material way up in frequency,
okay.
so it doesn't affect the normal 20k limit.
Yeah.
So you don't hear resonances in it because it's so way up above the 10k.
Understand.
That a human ear can hear.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of benefits with diamond. The downside, of course, it's very exclusive and expensive and difficult to produce.
Of course,
yes.
Understood. And the 7-inch mid-range driver,
yes,
that's quite special, isn't it?
It's really special. It's
really
one
special.
of a kind.
One of a kind.
Yes, it's a 7-inch beryllium dome, the biggest ever produced.
Yeah.
And beryllium is a great material because it's almost as stiff as a diamond, but you can do it bigger, and you can, and it's. I shouldn't say cheaper, but it is.
Compared to making a 7-inch diamond, it would be impossible.
I'm not sure it's possible to make a 7-inch diamond. If it would, it would be probably a little bit too exclusive for even this loudspeaker.
Yeah.
But so beryllium is a great material, and we use it now in several models. And for the mid-range purposes, it's the best material, I think.
Okay. Obviously, it's a very big driver. Do you have any idea of like the weight of the moving mass in this
yes,
driver?
Of course.
Yeah.
This is a 7-inch driver, mid-range driver, and a normal 7-inch driver have a, we call it in technical term MMS. It's like a moving mass. In normal mid-range driver, it's in ceramic or whatever material. It's usually around maybe 13 to 16 grams.
Yeah.
But with this beryllium driver, and the MMS is only 8 grams. So that's very unique.
7-inch total area of the dome, but only 8 grams in moving mass.
Yes.
What's the benefit of having a lighter driver in that way?
Then you get easier to control it. If you have a magnet system, you can control the driver and lower the distortion dramatically. Instead of having twice as heavy. Of course, then you can have an even more stronger magnet system for that. But there are also a limit how strong magnet system you can do.
Of course.
So now the magnet system is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
But with this lightweight 7-inch, 8 grams moving mass, it's so controlled, so the distortion is so low, so it's even lower than most amplifiers.
Amazing. There are 4 bass drivers or mid-bass drivers on the main towers. What's the material called?
This is actually newly developed material by our supplier.
Yeah.
They call it crystallite.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's a glass ceramic material.
Okay.
That's extremely stiff and quite light. It's lighter than normal ceramic. That's done from aluminium oxide. This is a little bit different, so it's lighter, even as stiff and lighter than the normal ceramic. And it's also very strong, so it's almost not possible to break it.
Interesting.
Yes.
And when produce or like all the development stage of a speaker like this, was this the first driver you tested, or did we try a lot of different ones?
I tested different ones in the carbon fiber and others. But we found out that this newly developed driver, crystalline membranes, it's actually the best material for a mid-bass. So it's mid-bass, it goes up to, we use it up to about 300 hertz.
Okay, yeah.
But since it's the first order crossover, we can hear it up to 1k hertz. Yeah. So the material is very good even in the mid-range. But above 300k, the beryllium is a little bit better. Yeah. So that's why we use it.
So with the construction and with the first order crossover filters, you have a lot of overlapping between the different drivers.
Yes.
And you think that is quite unique for Marten as a manufacturer?
Yeah, it's not many manufacturers that do pure first order crossover. Like maybe 1 or 2 more brands. do similar things, but they don't use this kind of materials, so they don't get the same result as we do.
So it's truly Marten construction in that way.
Yes.
You have a couple of bass drivers over on your side as well.
Yeah.
Is this the cell driver?
Also the cell driver. So the crystal drivers and the bass drivers is from Acoustics.
Yeah.
And it's a cell series. So they have the same acoustic centra and very stiff membranes. And the bass drivers in this has, instead of crystal lid, they use aluminum sandwich membranes, and that's even better in a low bass, below maybe around 100 hertz. This is better than crystal lid or beryllium or whatever. So we use the aluminum sandwich drivers for the low bass, and that's the best material in that sense.
Very interesting. So backside of the speakers also features a couple of drivers, around 20 of them for a pair. And what do you think is the benefit of using these passive radiators?
The big benefit with passive radiators is that you can get better control over the bass, and you don't get any noise from a port, because the port acts like an organ pipe, like in the bass effects. So you can get some noise from it, and it's sometimes quite difficult to damp the noise from the bass port. With a passive driver you don't get that, because it's like a closed box with a passive driver instead of a bass effects port. And also you get the bass will be more even and not depending how loud you play. In a bass effects or a ported construction, you can get a little bit different bass quality depending how loud you play. It will behave a little bit different if you play low or if you play high. With a passive radiator, that's not the case. You get the same quality bass, not depending on the...
So low level listening late at night, you will still
It will be a little bit different if you have a bass effects, but with a passive radiator it will be the same, basically the same performance.
We know with the diamond tweeter that the speaker goes well above 20,000 hertz. Does this speaker also go below 20 hertz?
Yes. With this construction, with 10-inch drivers on the front, and then with 20 10-inch passive drivers on the back, we can reach minus 3 dB at 17 hertz.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can get the even lowest organ pipe.
Yeah.
You can hear that. Yeah.
So for a symphony orchestra, this is probably as close as you can come by reproducing that.
And you can get all the dynamics since you have 30 10-inch drivers to handle the bass. So
interesting.
That's kind of unique.
Do you have any kind of tunability for the bass as well when you've installed the speakers?
Yes. We have a level control for the bass that affects between 50 and 120 hertz that you can put in different levels between it's 4 dB. It's 5 levels, and it's about maybe 0.7 dB between each level. So you can fine tune the bass into the room. Depending how it's placed or how big the room is and stuff like that.
Interesting. And coming over then to this kind of construction, because I understand this is a 5-way speaker.
Yes.
Why do we make a 5-way speaker?
If you want a really low distortion and you need to be able to get all the dynamics from the recording, you need a lot of drivers. And to have it, make it with 40 drivers and 2-way model, it doesn't work really. And since you want to play loud, it's also a big demand for the drivers. So you need to divide it up in different areas so the driver can actually handle all the energy. So we divide it in a tweeter, low tweeter, mid-range, mid-bass and bass.
So that means with a 5-way construction and first order crossover filters, there are 5 separate filters?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So one for each section in that way.
Yes.
Yeah. Does it take a long time to develop a filter like that?
Yes. It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. Okay.
It's so to tell you the truth, the first order crossover is in theory the simplest crossover.
Yeah.
It's only for a bass it's only one component, for a mid-range it's only two components, and for a tweeter it's only one component.
Okay.
But that's in theory. In practice it's completely opposite.
Yeah.
You need a lot of components that control all the resonances that is in the drivers, and maybe a little bit uneven frequency response you need to take care of. So it's a lot of components in the first order crossover, much more than in the second or third or fourth order crossover. So and to get all these components and the drivers to work together as something
as
like
one
driver,
unit. Yeah.
one unit, it takes a long time. It's very difficult, and it took me 35 years
To learn how
to do it, more or less.
So we can say that in the
Or 40 years.
yeah. So we can say that this kind of flagship product now really represent all of the experience and the knowledge that you have collected during all of the years building speakers.
So we can say the development of these loudspeakers took me 45 years.
45 years.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
If you see it like that. Of course, I've been working with this loudspeaker maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
More or less, but with all the experience I got from 45 years of making
So that is the
loudspeakers.
normal development time of a product like in the flagship range, going from an idea to have something that is actually in production, that is around a 3-year period.
Yeah, or more or less,
More or less.
maybe even more.
Yeah.
Because when I did the Supreme 2 and finalized it, and we presented it, had it launched, then already at that time I was thinking of the next Supreme.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Almost 10 years ago
Yeah.
in that way. One thing that we haven't mentioned so far is that with all of the drivers, there's many drivers in this system, the complex first order crossover filters, they gotta be quite some internal cabling in a speaker like this as well.
Yes, it's a lot of drivers, as you say.
Yeah.
It's 10, it's like
44, if I'm correct.
no, 24 that needs cables.
That needs cables, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
24 drivers. So it's need cables, of course. So it's like in this set 4-piece towers, we use about 100 meters internal cabling.
Okay.
And we use Jorma top of the line cables, Paragon.
Yeah.
It's our sister company. So it's 100 meters of Paragon loudspeaker cables inside this loudspeaker.
Was that also because the Paragon line was introduced in 2024, the power cords, and in 2025, together with these speakers, also the speaker cable and interconnects came to the market.
Yeah.
So that was also part of the development project for these speakers to have something that
so
was on the
we
same
developed that in parallel with the Supreme system. So the idea all the time was to use the new Paragon as internal cabling for this system.
Interesting.
And that makes it, of course, to use the Paragon cables outside as well. It will be synergy effect from that.
There has also been another collaboration together with Acoustics.
Yes.
Why are we seeing these speakers? I can imagine that they are quite heavy, but why are they not standing on spikes?
Because spikes has some problems. It works like like this. It transfers all the energy from loudspeaker down to the floor if you use a spike.
Yeah.
And then, if a floor is not stable enough, it starts to vibrate. So it will be a lot of distortion from the floor standing on.
Yeah.
But if you have a very stable floor, a stiff floor, the thing that happens, all the energy goes back into the loudspeaker.
So then you're actually adding distortion in that way.
Yes. So we use Acoustics principle. Let's isolate the floor from a loudspeaker. So when you get energy from a loudspeaker, it's actually disappears in the feeds. So the vibrations disappear. It doesn't add something to the floor. It doesn't add to the something back to the cabinet seal.
Very interesting. Well, thank you very much for explaining all of these questions for us.
You're most welcome.
We are looking forward to playing these speakers. So now we're gonna enjoy some nice music. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a crossover. I'm still using some jumpers here to finalize the crossover. But I can show you which part is for each driver. This upper part here is for the 3-inch diamond driver. This big part here it's for the 7-inch beryllium dome. And this part here is for mid-bass drivers. And for the small tweeter, it's inside the cabinet actually. And for the bass crossover, it's also inside the cabinet. That you can't see here.
production area. So please follow me in here. We are building the first customer pair of the Supreme Extreme, which is also going to be delivered here end of this month. So this is a huge moment for us when the first customer pair is going out. Drivers with a double magnet system. So on the front, you know, there is 5 of these in each tower, and then we have the same size passive radiator, 10-inch, that goes on the back side, and that is 20 pieces. So 20 10-inch pieces. And we can see here we have some quite unique drivers. And these ones, I would like you only to shoot like from the above. There is no signs or anything like that, but they are a little bit more secret for us. And this is the unique Crystallite driver that is used only in the Quintet Extreme at the moment. And this is a 3-inch diamond dome. That is the upper upper mid-range driver for the Coltrane Quintet Extreme and for the Coltrane Supreme Extreme. So this is a unique driver that we only use in 2 of our models. Yes, of course, it's on the upper scale of pricing, and that's also why it's only used in these 2 different speakers as well. So I'm gonna uncut here. But you have these ones in the main towers, you have 4 of, which is the 8-inch Crystalite driver. And I'm gonna put that one here. It's very, very unique. So here you have the 7-inch beryllium driver. And this is the biggest beryllium driver. So that means, of course, yeah, we're limited to 60 pairs of speakers. But of course, if there is an accident, we also would like to have some in stock for replacement. So with the crossovers we have here, we are preparing the Coltrane Supreme Extreme, one of the first customer pairs to be built, and this is going to be implemented. This is a full 5-way speaker, so there is a lot of crossover, separate crossover compartments that goes into the speaker. Here we have implemented all of the Dulan components as well, all of the Jorma Paragon cabling. So this is just part of what goes into the Supreme Extreme speakers. On the shelf over here we have 2 other filters that is going to be mounted inside of these speakers. That has just been delivered to us from our employee who builds the crossover filters. Just the production process of building these filters together is around 2 weeks for one speaker. So a lot of work goes into this, finding the best possible way of putting the components together, because also of the limited space inside of the speakers. And of course it needs to be very, very sturdy due to when speakers are shipped. So we secure everything with extra security, but everything is hardwired from the beginning. We don't want to use any kind of circuit boards for the crossover filters. We believe this is a much better way of doing it. Compared before, we know that it takes a lot of hours to build, but could you just mention for us like the different steps? Where do we start?
We start with polishing the carbon fiber boxes.
Yeah. So all cabinets, as we said, the carbon fiber cabinets are manufactured in Sweden. Even though they have a very, very high finish when they arrive here, we do all of the final polishing in-house to really lift the finish to the absolute top level. So how many hours do you think you spend on polishing like the 4 towers in the Supreme Extreme?
Maybe 2 days.
2 days of just polishing to get to that level of finish that our customers expect. And after the polishing, you start working with the wood pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I assemble the aluminum, and also with this asphalt board.
Yeah.
To make it.
So a sturdy tape that goes in under there to take away resonances. And as you can see here, it's also a sandwich construction. I believe it's an 8 or 10 millimeter aluminum plate, or is it even thicker?
Yeah, I think it's 10.
10 millimeter aluminum plate that is covering the back side of the, in this case it's the main tower. And then you have the solid walnut, that is the other part of the sandwich construction. And as you can see here, this is creating a very, very stiff, resonance-free construction that is mounted directly on the 25 millimeter thick solid carbon fiber cabinet. So just the amount of carbon fiber that is actually used for producing the 4-tower system is around 400 square meters of carbon fiber weave. And I actually don't know exactly the production time for the carbon fiber manufacturing to putting a pair of cabinets or 4 pieces of cabinets together, but it's also a long process. This construction consists of a 25 millimeter thick front and 35 millimeter thick sides, all solid carbon fiber. On to all of the wood parts. Here we can see that, is this the top or bottom for
It's the top.
This is actually the top. So this has been finalized in walnut, and it has all of the layers of lacquer. So on this piece of wood there is approximately 15 layers of lacquers. So the first 14 layers are piano lacquer, or a glossy one, and then just the final layer is the matte clear coat, which create this amazing depth of the wood. And it's also 100% covered, so all of the pores in the wood is 100% sealed, which means that we can easily install these speakers in a very humid country like Japan during the summers, definitely, without the wood changing in that way. Also, the tops and bottom are mounted on an aluminum plate to increase the strength and stiffness of the construction, taking away even more resonances. And also it looks amazing when you have this kind of layers into this. Christian, when it comes down to the base for the speakers,
Yes.
that's also a stainless steel
Yeah.
base. Can you explain a little bit more about how these different parts are integrated to the carbon fiber cabinet?
They are integrated with a M10 bolt.
Yeah.
This is really heavy.
And also on these parts we do some final polishing to make sure that everything is
Yes.
On the top level. So this is the base for the
Mid tower.
main tower, and it consists of 3 parts that
Four
is put
parts.
together. 4 parts even.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ah, yeah, of course, that's separate parts. And to get this kind of finish, you use a water polishing process?
No, we just use a regular polish, actually.
It's only on the faceplate that we go on with the
Yeah.
water polishing. Okay.
Yes.
So we can see here now in the production area that we actually have 3 out of the 4 towers mounted without the drivers, without the crossover units. So how many hours has gone into the manufacturing so far?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe 4 weeks.
Just to get the
Just to get
4 towers ready to be ready for mounting the drive units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Så kanske du kan få det.
Ja.
Så kan du gå upp i den. Snurrar vi den åt det hållet. Så bara pricka in i. Där ska han vara.
Jag lyfter lite på din sida. Sådär.
Fits and
To get the different fits from the different sides.
it's a
Make
lot of
sure.
parts that needs to fit together. So
Yeah.
need to test it. Looks great.
Det gör det faktiskt. It's a perfect fit and finish. That's of course always a big challenge when you're working with different types of material to make sure that it's matching in the best possible way. When you have carbon fiber and the real wood, customers is expecting very, very small differences. So we need really to be careful when doing the mounting in that way. You want me to help you lift that one
Yes.
off again now? Yep. Yeah. We do the same way. So you start from the inside. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. And we go this side. Don't drop.
Så.
And there is also, like what Christian is doing now, is the gasket that is mounted on the cabinet. So there is also to make the seal tight.
Det är ingen fara. Jag kan avvara lite. Några centimeter längre.
Du ska inte ha någonting, eller? Nej.
Fram till att frugan får fötterna. Va? Det ska vara det här jättemycket precis. Vilken halvkur där?
Övre mellan tycker jag det står på.
Och där står det övre mellan. Shit.
Ja, men det är ju precis. Det är en Paragon. Ja, så det är två. Hallå. Tjena.
Tjena!
Hallå!
Nya. Exakt. Finns det ingen ring
på skiteffektsstyrning.
Ja, det är kromring någonstans. Eller?
Ja, ta den någonstans. Det är ju inga. Och sen så blir det så ser man exakt vad det är. Så här är det en bottenbord. Precis.
Ska jag lite så han hamnar rätt. Så ta andra sidan.
Han är rätt, detta är bra.
Ska jag hålla någonting där nere eller?
Ja.
Här hade du dratt nu eller?
Ja.
Jag tycker, ja. Ja, men det...
Han ska över lite grann här.
Till mig?
Ja. Så du ser att den linjen blir rak där. Därifrån sett.
Ja, det var ganska bra. Ja, eller så.
Känns väldigt bra.
Som bågenfält kör ut som är råa kanter och vet.
Jag ligger inte i hyllan där vid printen. Nej. Har du kollat i den hyllan som är direkt till vänster? Utan...
Ja, jag har inte gjort.
Sänker musiken bara för lite, om det är så här copyright på video.
Jaha.
Om den ligger i bakgrunden så kommer det knipa hela tiden.
Kör man inte musikeditering sen efteråt?
Ja, kanske. Jag är inte så insatt. Sätter du några element i de här idag eller det ligger längre fram i tiden?
Det är långt bort.
Det är långt bort. Så nu är det 2 stycken toppar. Vad händer där ute?
Kanske ska sätta dit dem, men jag har inte riktigt bestämt mig om vi ska göra det.
Sätta dit topparna?
Nej,
Nej.
för att slutskedet är väl att... Det sitter ju en tätningslist som du ser i botten på den plåten där.
Den som är här.
Den,
Ja.
precis. Ja. Och när vi ska sätta dit bakstycket, vilket är långt kvar innan vi har liksom satt...
Nu är det liksom... Nu jag tänkte att han ville åka ut.
Klarar ni det på 3 eller ska jag hjälpa till också?
Ja, det är på andra sidan.
Ja, ja.
Lyfter vi lite här så jag får under händerna.
Ja.
Så lyfter vi hela kabinettet.
Ja.
Så går vi i sidled. Stopp. Och så lägger vi ner den.
Ja.
Och så låter den tilta bara. Där reser ni den upp.
Och ja.
Lycka till med det. Tack.